Now fully restored, there is little else to do, so with the surveyor's approval, HMS Gay Archer heads off on its sea trial. The journey from Salford Quays in Manchester to Watchet in Somerset.
The journey home consisted of going from Salford Quays to Ellesmere Port. This would be a 7-hour journey because we're restricted by the canals that we're travelling down. We had to do 3 circuits in Salford Quays in the basin to zero the Fluxgate compass which we'd just installed on the vessel. The GPS and everything else were tested as well and found to be satisfactory.
Coastal Forces veteran Captain Bill Goodall takes her on the first leg of the trip through the Manchester Ship Canal.
After leaving the Salford Quays, we transited through a multitude of bridges and locks.
Go on, Pocket! Get it out, get that rope out! Pull that flashes on the end rope, come on, shake yourself! Right, make it up! 3 rolls out, yep. Good on you. How are you doing? All right? Not seen you for a while.
It was a frightening experience for me because I didn't know how anything would perform, and thankfully everything actually worked really well. I mean, and all credit to everybody that put their effort in. We really had quite a reasonable trip down with no mechanical failures. The engines lasted for 10 hours on one stint. On the whole, I thought it went absolutely superb for its first trip out. 50 miles on the clock, 2 years to produce 50 miles. I'm proud, and everybody else is proud that were with us at the time.
We settled up at the Holiday Inn at Ellesmere Port, waiting for a weather window.
So with good weather conditions forecast, the second leg of the journey takes the Archer from Ellesmere Port to Holyhead via the infamous Liverpool Bar, where the Mersey clashes with the Irish Sea.
Our first point of call was at the lock at Eastham to go out into the River Mersey. Once we had done that, the weather wasn't too bad, but as we approached the Liverpool Bar, we were hitting the tail of a force 5, which rocked the boat tremendously, and I think everybody on board had something to say about it in one way or another. Some people were ill and some people just went through it. On the whole, I was a little bit ill as well, but only for about 10 minutes, and then after that I was fine.
Me being the alternative medicine woman, I'd thought about this in advance and bought some crystallised ginger for our seasickness. Unfortunately, I'd put it in the kitchen. Oh, I've never been so seasick in my life.
Liverpool pilot Matt Easton takes the helm for the journey down the Irish Sea.
I just enjoy it. It's back to basics. Just enjoy being on the bridge. It's hand steering, open bridge. What it was doing like in the old days. The best one would be if we could really open the engines up and get it. The photographs all show it being on the plane doing 40 knots. It'd be nice to get somewhere near. We can't do that fast. We get somewhere near that, I think, and that would be a good moment as well.
Our next port of call wasn't to go in but to bypass was Holyhead. That was some distance away, and we were still struggling against increasing weather from a 5 to a 4.
With all going well, the Archer ventures on from Holyhead to Milford Haven.
Once we had reached Holyhead, it was now the downward leg down to Milford Haven. This was going to take some 10 hours to do. We kept this at half throttle because we didn't want to overdo any of the engineering and stress any of the material and mechanics that were just freshly laid down.
All is concerned as the starboard engine is running hot and springs an oil leak.
How the engine's going, Glenn?
Very well. Cured the leak and everything's running honky-dory.
As the sun came down and the moon shone, it was hard to realise that in 2005 I was looking at something that could have been happening back in 1950 or even in the 40s. I thought one of the best things was when you know when you're going along at night and you look out and it's all pitch black and you see all the red lights and all the instruments all lit up, but everything else around you is black apart from the wake at the back that you can see. And I did quite a few times. I sat on the back of the boat and had a cigarette and just sort of, I wonder what it must have been like as a young boy doing this, but going to war.
They're doing 45 knots now, crashing through the blackness. Nothing ahead of them but the unseen enemy.
At one point we actually lost the coastline of Wales and the coastline just about seeing Ireland, so we were quite a way out even coming down, and it was only for the sake of seeing the light, you know, the lights from the lighthouses in the distance, you know, that give you some idea of exactly where you are, because you could be just lost.
You could call it a family affair, as Paul's sons are willfully press-ganged. As Owen works in the engine room, Simon is at the helm.
Well, I keep nagging me old man saying about getting some bigger injectors for the engines to take the horsepower up a bit. And if you can get the sponsorship, it'd be lovely if we could get a third engine back in here with the right gearboxes, maybe get her up to 40-45 knots.
When you're up there, you kind of don't really realise kind of what it must look like from someone looking at you on the boat, but it certainly felt awesome. I remember my dad and others there kind of taking pictures, and I looked at Daddy.
Watching the boys up on the bridge doing their stuff, you know, and that was quite good as well. And a bit of camaraderie going on, it was great.
I'll be like...
And that's one less Nazi to worry about.
Paul has always been a headstrong lad and very enthusiastic, and I had to curb him sometimes, but on this occasion there was going to be no holding him. Paul's proved himself to be a very resourceful chap, and what else can I say? I'm so proud of him.
I looked at the fuel calculations and I realised we were using somewhere in the region of 1 gallon per mile per engine at half throttle, and I wanted to make sure that I had a safety gap of at least 10 hours of fuel, especially from the trip from Milford Haven to Watchet. So I decided we should pull in at Milford Haven for fuel. This we did at 6:30 the next morning. It took an hour to fuel up and sort things out, get shipshape and ready to move again.
The final leg of the journey takes the Archer from Milford Haven to her new berthing, Watchet in Somerset.
The weather was decreasing all the time, by the way, and when we got round the corner and we were heading past Lundy Island, we actually fell into a 1 to a 0, which was ideal. It was my type of weather, actually. The boat was lovely, it just absolutely floated a dream. It was perfect in every respect. I always remember looking back and saying to myself, looking at the boat on the blocks and thinking, I wonder what this would be like actually on the sea. And now I'm actually visualising it for the first time with my wife. It actually works. Everything that was put in worked. It was tremendous. It was absolutely brilliant.
Oh,
We saw Watchet on the horizon as we came past Minehead, and we knew we were almost home. I still was thinking about the engines and everything else, and I'd spent over 10 hours in the engine room listening to them chatting away to each other. It was amazing to think that I'd put all that work and effort in and it all worked. We actually got her through the gates for the first time. None of us had been here before, and we rested the boat up and turned everything off and the generator off, and the boat became silent. And it was just such a wonderful feeling. Then I could probably sit down and think, well, I've done it now, I wonder what I'm going to do next.
Today, the world's last remaining MTB of its class, HMS Gay Archer, is permanently berthed in Somerset. She plays host to the public as well as naval veterans, and she is a glorious reminder of Britain's naval past and a testament to one man's desire to keep that memory alive.